Hey guys, I am so sorry. It's been a long day. I was even just contemplating canceling this thing. But let me know if you're still there. Let me know if you are still there. All right. All right. So, welcome everyone. Let me know in the chat if you're still here, and thank you to those who were in the chat earlier. I am I was running behind. I hope you saw the post that I put up early a couple minutes before 6, around 5:30. It's been a long day. But it's a good day and I'm here. Um so today actually one of the things I wanted to discuss was just like how to prepare for the exam. All right. So first of all, let me know, does anyone have any questions that you want us to talk about today? Are there any topics you want covered today? So let me know in the chat. All right. And I didn't get any questions from anyone, but there was a question I actually got that I wanted to talk about. So we'll definitely discuss that today. But if you're watching right now and you have any additional questions, please let me know. See, someone said, still here from Chicago, just past 2 weeks ago. Woohoo, congratulations. Chicago, I'm in Chicago too. I was actually on the red line. I was on the train. And you can't make the train go faster. So yeah. And actually I'm not even home yet. I just stopped to do this and then I'll continue home. Um, but okay, so someone said in the chat, government controls on land use. Okay, all right. Um, so like zoning and things like that. And just FYI, I don't have my books with me because, like I said, I'm not at home. But we will make this work. Okay, this will work. All right. So with government controls, this is one of the governmental powers. Right, one of the governmental powers. If you remember the governmental powers, you have police power, eminent domain, taxation, and escheatment, right? So, um, police power is where governmental controls come in. So remember, everyone owns their real estate and they have the bundle of legal rights. So they can own it, use it as much, however they please, as long as it's within the framework of the law. Okay, so it's yours as much as the government allows you, right? So some of the governmental controls for land use, one of them is zoning. So remember, zoning is always flexible. Zoning can change, right? Always remember that. Because think about it. The purpose of zoning is to, um, number one, control the amount of businesses in an area, and then also make sure that the way land is being used actually makes sense for the community. So if we have, for example, an aging population, we want to make sure that how we're using our land works with that aging population. Or if we have a budding environment, if we have an area where we have a lot of people who want to live in a house with a backyard, they have a growing family and they want all the yard, the suburban feel, then the zoning will conform to that. Now, if we're shifting away from that to an area with a lot of students who need apartments, then we'll zone the land for stuff like that, right? So zoning always needs to conform with essentially the master plan of the community. And the master plan of the community is based off of what we think the community is going to look like in the future, in like 20, 30 years, right? For example, in the city of Chicago, um, I've been here like 20 something years. And over the time I've been here, we've had bike lanes get, put in on the streets. Some of it is annoying because our roads are already narrow and we already have traffic. Now we're adding bike lanes to it. So we're going from 2 lanes to 1 lane and then one other lane for bikes. But the city noticed that a couple years ago, a lot of people liked to ride their bikes. And so the city is like, okay, this is the vision we have for Chicago, all right, at least for these parts of Chicago. And so how do we make the city look like that? And based on that, they started making some zoning changes, all right? The other thing to know about zoning changes is that it always has to be constitutional, right? There's always that review process. So before they make certain changes, they actually will propose that change, all right? So for example, let's say you own a business and you wanted to ask for some change in the zoning, all right? That goes before the review board and it's proposed to the community. Members of the community will have an opportunity to come and either speak for or against your proposal. And if everyone's for it and there's nothing that's going to impede other people's ownership and things like that, and everyone's on board and they're like, okay, this can work in our community, then it's passed. So the same with zoning. Before the government actually makes some of those changes, they actually will bring it before the review board, ask the members of the community to come and speak on the situation, speak on the issue, either for it or against it. And then they will vote and all of those things. All right. Also, oh yeah, I saw someone in the chat that said, I hate those bike lanes. Yeah, they are. Yeah. And sometimes the bikers are not paying attention. So it's like you're watching out for cars, you're watching out for bikes. All right. Now, let's say that you are in an area already, you're existing in that area. Let's say you're running a grocery store in a residential community, all right? So the government or the local government, your alderman, whatever, decides that, okay, we need to change the zoning so that in the future, no grocery stores can open up in a residential community, all right? Now, you're already there in that community. It's not going to affect you, but it's going to affect future potential business owners, all right? So you that's there, you're already grandfathered in, and that's called a non-conforming use, okay? So the non-conforming use, when it comes to zoning, is you're in an area where you're no longer zoned for, but because you were there before the zoning change happened, it's okay for you to remain there, okay? Now, you can remain there as long as you're running the same business. But then if you need to change the type of business you're running in that building, you have to make sure that the government will allow for that zone, for that type of business in that community. So the grocery store closes down. Now you want to open up a T-Mobile store, for example, right? T-Mobile, whoever's running that T-Mobile store needs to go and make sure that the building is zoned for the T-Mobile store and they're allowed to be in that community. Okay, so that's the non-conforming use. So keep that in mind. Then also with special use permit, that's another type, okay, under zoning. The special use permit, this is where you're applying to be in an area you're not zoned for. Okay, you're applying to be in an area you're not zoned for. So let's say, again, back to the grocery store situation. You find a space in a residential area, it's commercial, but you're not zoned, it doesn't allow grocery stores. So then you take your case to the zoning committee and you ask them, hey, I think it would be a great idea for me to run this grocery store in this neighborhood, even though we're not zoned for it, and this is why. All right, so you place your concern before them. And if they say yes, by all means, go ahead, right? But if they say no, then you have to move somewhere else. So for us as agents, right, when we're working with clients, you got to make sure, even if the business before is the same as my business, you always have to make sure that they can continue. So that's on your client, not on you as the agent, but just advise your client to make sure that they are zoned for that area before they sign a lease. Okay? You need to make sure they're zoned for the area before they sign a lease. So that's your non-conforming use, your special use permit, and then there's a third one, a variance. With the variance, this is where you're zoned for the area, but you're asking for a variance, like an exception to the rule. Okay, so here's an example. One thing that zoning can control is one thing called a setback. A setback is the distance between the building and the sidewalk, or the building and the fence, so the building and the boundary line. Okay, so when someone's trying to build on a piece of land, the city has their setbacks, so the zonings, right? So if you're driving along a street, you would notice that most of the homes start at the same line. That's usually the setback for that community. Okay, so let's say the zoning in your area calls for 100 feet from the sidewalk or your boundary, whatever it is, right? Now you're trying to build something. And whatever you're trying to build, you're like, well, because of the way the land is and da da da, we may need to be like maybe 80 from the street versus 100. And so you take that to the zoning committee and say, hey, can you offer us a variance, an exception to that rule? Okay. If they say yes, then you can go ahead. If they say no, guess what? You have to go to the setback. All right. All right. So hope that made sense. And before I continue, just wanted to say, if you're watching and you haven't yet subscribed, please do that. And also be sure to check out other videos that I have. And I think someone even just asked a question right now about do I have continuing education videos? I do not, and I'll tell you why. To do continuing education, you have to be licensed by the state of Illinois. And so I can't do it through YouTube. It's like you have to go through a school to do it. And there really isn't an exam or anything. If there is, it's open book. So, yeah, it's not like the pre-licensing. So just find the real estate school that has continuing education, take the course, and you're good. Licenses had to be renewed by April 30th. So if you're currently licensed, check to see when your license expired. Hopefully you've renewed it. If not, please don't practice real estate till you renew your license. And do it. There might be a late fee at this point, but do it as soon as you can. But make sure you complete the continuing education hours first before you renew your license. Okay, so I do not do videos for it just because it's pretty much the same material per se, but there's no exam or anything to really prepare for. All right, so hope that answers your question. All right, so let me look. Are there any other questions that I missed? Oh, actually, if you are still here, Addy 1969, and you passed 2 weeks ago, again, congratulations. Let me know, or let us know in the comment. Share one thing you did that you think may help somebody. All right, share one thing you did that you think may help somebody who's preparing to take the exam. Please. Okay? No pressure, but if you can think of something, just please drop it in the comments for somebody else. All right? Okay. Let me see if there's anything else in the chat. No, there isn't. All right. And again, if you're watching and you have any questions about the material, let's say you're studying something and it's just not working out, or you need clarity on some subject, please drop it in the chat. But one thing I want to talk about is, someone said I might write some challenging questions maybe. Okay, so just full disclaimer, technically you're not supposed to share the questions from the exam, right? So just be careful about that. It's actually against the licensing law to do that. All right. So don't share it in public, okay? Like, just don't share it, period. Just to cover your behind. Okay. yeah, just if you know what I'm talking about, like I don't want to say something because this is YouTube, but you know what I mean. Like, don't share it in on platforms like this. All right, just so you don't get yourself in any trouble. All right, so if you have any questions, let me know. But one thing I wanted to really cover today is just test taking strategies and things like that. So the on the exam, if you notice, they will always have like two answers that are just off, and then um, they will also have two that are really really close. Okay, and you're always trying to pick the best answer. Um, not not always the right. So what you would do personally may not be the best answer, right? What you would do may not necessarily be the right answer. So sometimes you don't answer it like you would do it. You answer it according to the law, right? What does the law say we should do? For example, let's talk about disclosures. Okay, now if I'm working with a buyer, all right, and I know the area has the area, maybe the zoning is changing, things like that. As a buyer's agent, right, it would be great for me to tell my buyer those things because I'm looking out for their best interest, right? I'm providing care, loyalty, all of those things. Now if I'm a listing agent, all right, I'm looking out for my seller, so we want that property to sell. So how I will approach it will be different from how the buyer's agent will approach that situation. So on the listing side, I only need to disclose things that have to do with the physical condition of the property, right? So from are there leaks on the property? Are there, those type of situations, right? But I'm not necessarily giving them the 411, for example. Oh, the neighbors are loud, right? That has nothing to do with the property, right? So I'm not obligated as a listing agent to disclose those things, right? If you're the listing agent, could you say because you feel bad for the buyer? I'm just talking to you like personally, right? Could you say it? You may say yes, right? But are you looking out for the best interest of your seller by saying those things? I'm not saying you should lie, right? We're not saying lie, but there are things if you're not 100% sure, don't make up stories. For example, if you've been there and you've heard things, right? You could say, well, the last time I was here, I heard blah, 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 but I don't live here. Versus saying, "Oh my gosh, the neighbors are terrible," da 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 da, da. Like the lady was so rude to me, and da da da. Like didn't he ask you all those things, right? Now you're not looking out for the best interest of his seller. I don't know if that makes sense, but think about that when you're answering the questions, right? Who are you representing, and who do you need to look out for the best interest of? Okay, so that's one thing in terms of like answering questions on the exam, especially on the state portion. The state portion is very scenario based, where it's like, you're showing a property and this happens, or you're working with this client and this happens. What should you do, right? So, a couple other things. If you're not sure, ask your sponsoring broker. If you're not like, if the question says, you're a new agent, you're not sure how to do blah blah blah, what should you do? Ask your sponsoring broker. You're always trying to get help, right? Um, you're new and you're not sure if your office holds the earnest money. What should you do? Check your company's policy and procedure manual or ask your sponsoring broker, right? So, those types of things are things that you would want to do in those situations versus picking an answer that's like, well, I don't know, or I'll collect it anyway and hold it, or, some other random question, right? You're always seeking guidance because you're new, right? So, you need to seek guidance from your designated managing broker. All right. Okay, so I'll break there. Um, let's go to the comments. All right, thank you so much, Addy 1969. So it says she just studied all her notes. Actually, looked at the handout for. Okay, she's typing from her phone, so it's not really letting her. Okay. She cried for 3 days straight and went over all her notes. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think like just like zoning in and focusing and yeah, okay. So thank you for sharing those. Now this question says, can you appeal a zoning decision? Yes. Okay. I don't know how many times you can appeal because it depends on where you are, and they're not going to ask you a question like that on the exam. Just FYI, because it's different wherever you are. But if they have an appeal process, then you can appeal. Another question. What do you think about working for a brokerage, paid versus not paying? Can you clarify what you mean by this question, paid versus not paying? You mean like a brokerage that has monthly dues versus one that doesn't? Or can you clarify what you mean here? Okay. In terms of picking a brokerage, honestly, it depends on what your goals are and what you want to do. Because for certain things, it's either a long-term game or a short-term, right? So you could be like, okay, this one offers this. Okay, so I'm not shoving out money, but then are you making money, right? Or I'm paying a little bit, but I'm making money, right? So it's a business decision. Um, when you first get your license, you may not. It just depends. Everyone's journey is different. There have been people who got their license, and I mean, for me, I think I was just blessed because I got my license and I had a friend who was looking. So that was my first client, and then I got one lead from the office, and that worked out. Um, not like expensive. Um, I mean, these days the property values are higher, but I think the lead I got from the office, we ended up closing at like 60 grand at that point, right? Um, so, you know, you can do the math. You wouldn't even believe what I made on that one, but it was fine. It was my first one. And then the other one I think was like 100 and something, right? But it was within, I think I started really in May and then they closed in August. So that was like a few months, right? But then there are people who it takes 6 months, a year, especially in our market today. But what I like to tell my students is once you start taking the class, start talking about it, okay? Because it's going to help you with different things. Number one, it's going to keep you accountable, right? Remember, I told you my friend was my first client. It was one of those things where I was like, oh, I'm taking my real estate license exam and da 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 da. So when I passed, she looked at me, she's like, you're done, right? I'm like, yeah, I'm done. She's like, okay, let's go look for houses. But if I wasn't done, should I be like, okay, I'm waiting for you, right? So if you begin to tell people, hey, I'm doing this, I'm going to be licensed by this time, right? They're going to look at you and like, hey, are you ready? And that's going to, at least someone's waiting for you. Oh, that gives you some kind of urgency to prepare, study, and go take the exam, right? So begin to talk about it, begin to post about it, tell people, hey, I need your help. Like, if you want prayer, ask for prayer, like whatever it is, like post about it, whatever. Don't be ashamed of doing that because closed mouths don't get fed, right? So talk about it. All right. So talk about it. So it's number one, pushes you to get the job done. Number two is you never know who's looking to buy, right? You never know who's looking to buy. And so if you begin to talk about it, someone's like, oh, you are? Well, we were thinking about buying or we're thinking about upgrading and da 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 da. Okay, let me know, right? And then you make a note of that and make sure you let them know. Okay. So those are the two main reasons why I tell people, even right from the beginning, begin to talk about it because you never, never know. Okay. I actually knew somebody else who was trying to buy at that point, but she already had an agent and she was like, we already feel like this guy has done a lot for us. So we're just going to stick with him and they, end up buying with him or whatever. But again, you never know. So talk about it. And then after you get your license, guess what? You're going to talk about it some more. Okay. Talk about it some more. Um, So back to this question. So he's saying the ones that, so in the response he says yes, like in terms of working for a brokerage where you pay a monthly fee versus when you don't pay a monthly fee. Now, I started in one where I didn't pay a monthly fee. Now I'm in one where I pay a monthly fee. Um, when I started, would I have gone to one that paid a monthly fee? Where I was at that point, the answer is no, just because of where I was. I was working full time, and um, maybe I was afraid. I don't know, but I was just like, let me just take some, quick little steps. Um, so at that point, it didn't seem like it just was like, okay, low risk. Let me just do this. However, in hindsight, I'm like, maybe I should have gone to a place that kind of pushed me a little bit more because um you know how they say you get what you pay for, right? Sometimes that's true, right? You get what you pay for. If you're getting free, but remember the other thing too, sorry, if I you know what, let me not backtrack. Okay. Sometimes you get what you pay for, right? And so it may seem like, okay, I'm not making any payments, but what are you gaining from being there? Right? So you have to weigh all your options. Earlier, I was talking about long term gain versus short term. When I started, I was thinking short term. I wasn't thinking long at all. Like, because I was just like, I'm just testing this thing out to see. And I actually wish I didn't come in with that mindset, but I didn't know better. Honestly, guys, like, I didn't know anything about anything when I got into this. Like, y'all know more than I did when I got in. Like, I knew nothing. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I didn't know anything. And maybe if I did, I may have been afraid. And so that's why I didn't know, right? So think long term. Think about what you want as your goal and find a place that is going to give you those things, whether or not you have to pay. Of course, I'm not saying go join a place where you have to pay like $700 a month or $300 a month or something like that. Something manageable. Look at your budget and give yourself a time frame. Okay, I'm going to do this for X amount of months or maybe for 1 year. Do I have the cash right now to do that? Yes. Or maybe you're working. Keep your job, please. Keep your job. All right. And do both. You can do both. I did both for almost 2.5 years or 2 years, something like that, year and a half, something, right? Keep your job because you can do both. All right. Just time management and things like that. But then just make sure your money is right because like I told you, I got my license officially in May. I didn't close till August. So if I had nothing coming in those months, it would have just been dreadful, right? So keep weigh out everything. Look at your budget, look at your finances, and pick something that makes sense for you and your family if you are supporting a family. All right. So that's a major thing. And remember, even if you join a brokerage and you're paying, it's not working out. Of course, read the fine print, but you're not obligated to stay there, right? You can move to a different brokerage if it's not working out. So don't be afraid. Don't let the money chase you away in the beginning, just because sometimes, like, what are you getting? What are you getting for the money that you're giving? And the other thing I was going to say before that I decided not to digress was sometimes you get the no fees up front, but when you close a transaction, you give away a whole lot more in some cases than others, right? So weigh everything, all right? And that's where I'll leave it because I'm not talking about any splits or any numbers or anything, but just know that you got to look at everything as a whole package and not just, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. All right. Hope that answered your question. Says, oh, you passed. Congratulations. Congratulations. Let us know in the chat if you were to give someone any advice, what would you say? If you were to give anybody advice, what would you give them? And then we got more from Lisa says, I had to make, okay. I looked at all the state and national exam outline and focused on the areas with the most exam questions. For example, on the national 28 agency relationship. Exactly. Thank you for bringing this up. So, in most of the description of my videos, I have a link to the candidate handbook. So that's this outline that's mentioned here. Okay. So please grab that. And I think the pages that have this outline, I think it's like 15, 16, somewhere around there. But it gives you all like how many questions are going to come from here, how many questions are coming from here. So focus on those. All right. Agency is huge. Contracts as well, right? So financing as well, right? So the ones that you get a lot of questions on, focus on those because if you have 15 questions and you get 10 out of 15, that's better than getting 5 out of 15, right? So focus on the ones that have the most questions. All right. So the candidate handbook, please use that. I know that I have a link to like a planner that I created, and a lot of you have downloaded it. Now, if anyone's curious about how to use it, here's what I would say. When you get the handbook, sorry, the planner, you take the handbook as well, and you can use the information from the outline and use it to plug into the planner. So you're saying, okay, today I'm going to study contracts. Tomorrow I'm going to study this. Tomorrow I'm going to study, like you're literally outlining what you're going to study each day. Also, you're going to set out time, like how many hours a day am I going to study, right? Am I doing an hour and a half? Am I doing 2 hours every day? And make sure that you're making that commitment and you're keeping that commitment to yourself, because it's the continuity of it, right? It's not necessarily hard. It's just new information. And when something is new, you have to keep practicing and practicing and practicing until you get better, right? And as you get better, then you can go on from there. Like for me, I've been teaching this like how many years now. So like when you ask me government control, I don't need to look in a book. I can tell you from my head because I've been doing this over and over and over again. But I remember the first day I taught. Okay, everyone has a first day, right? So don't beat yourself up. Everybody has a first day. But the more you do it, the more it becomes normal to you. And I always tell people, as much as you can, don't try to memorize definitions, but be able to like talk about it, right? Be able to just like use it in conversation. Oh, zoning, we're trying to make sure that it fits the community, right? Because if population is increasing, we need more housing. Guess what? We may have to change land that was zoned for manufacturing to residential so we can build more homes, right? So that's one way you can do that, just to help you and begin to use it in your regular vocabulary. Actually, who cares, right? You're studying. And then also another tip for studying is use different avenues. So you can read, you can listen. Like with my videos, for example, you don't have to like sit there and watch me, right? Except if there's like a slide that you're looking at. But you could just have it playing as you're doing things around the house, as you're driving, as you're doing whatever, right? And you're just listening to the material. So then it's just going to your subconscious. And you're like, oh yeah, she said that. And then it's a question on the exam. Oh yeah, she said that. And then you go in and you write that. But just that continuous repetition and then using different avenues. If you have kids or you live with people, use them to help you study. Give them stuff to test you on, right? Bring them into it. If someone feels like you're not spending enough time with them because you're studying a lot, bring them into your study session. Hey, come grill me. Let's hang out, right? During COVID, I used to tell people, just tell everyone you had a cough. They'll leave you alone and you could study, right? But now it's getting warmer. Everybody wants to be outside. Bring people in and let them study with you. Make it fun, make it enjoyable. Because if you just feel like, oh, it's a drag, it's going to be more difficult to study. Okay. All right. Anybody else have any other questions or something you wanted me to cover? And there was a question I was going to bring up that someone had asked. So let me look for that. But if you do, please leave it in the comments. All right, I found it. So the question, let's see. Oh, okay. Sorry. Sure. Right. If you go on my page, there's an email address. Just email me, and then we can talk about that. So the question I was looking for, it had to do with transfer of ownership. So let me copy it, and I will show it to you, just because it'll be easier this way. So I'll put it in the comments section, and then show it on the screen. So with estate in land, right? With estate in land, you have fee simple estate, you have freehold estate, those types of things. So the question was, there were a couple things that didn't make sense. So let me see if I can put this up on the screen for you all to see. All right, so this says, came across two questions. Can you please let me know why one answer says you can transfer and the other answer says you can't transfer? So then the question is, which of the following characteristics does not describe a fee simple estate? Okay. And then this one says transferred upon death. So let's look at fee simple estate. Let's just stop it and look at fee simple estate. So with fee simple estate, this is the level of ownership that is not dependent on someone's life. Okay? Because under freehold, we have fee simple estate and then we have life estate. Then under fee simple, we have fee simple absolute, and then we have fee simple, I want to say determinable, the one that has conditions, and there are two of them, right? So under fee simple absolute, you own it free and clear. This is the highest level of ownership you can have. So with fee simple, if someone dies, right, their heirs can inherit the property, but it is not automatically transferred at death. Okay, it can be inherited. It can be sold at any time. You can own it forever, right? Fee simple. But it cannot be transferred upon death. And I don't have the other options, but it says the answer to this one was it cannot be transferred. It's not transferred upon the death of the owner. So what that means is when the person dies, it doesn't automatically go to somebody else. It has to go according to the will, according to the type of ownership, da 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 da. Okay? Versus a life estate. A life estate ownership is dependent on someone's life. So if that person dies, the property automatically transfers to the next owner. Right? So that's the difference. All right. So then the next question that the person saw was, which term refers to the largest estate or ownership of fee simple? So let me put that on the screen for you guys. I hope that makes sense, guys. If it doesn't, please let me know. So this one says, which term refers to the largest estate or ownership in real property? And the answer again is fee simple estate, like I mentioned earlier. So here's the rationale, the explanation that they gave as to why that's the answer. And again, I don't have the other options, so the explanation says, and it's in the comments too, the fee simple estate refers to the largest and most complete form of ownership in real property. It provides the owner with absolute rights and control over the property and can be freely transferred or inherited. Okay? Remember, I said it earlier, you can transfer ownership, it can be inherited to somebody else. But the difference between this explanation and this answer is the word death. Okay? Now, it can be inherited, meaning if you're an heir, you get it based on either the will or the state laws, right? But it has to go through that process. There's no automatic transfer of ownership upon the death of the owner. All right, so that's the difference between fee simple and life estate. Okay, so hopefully if you come across this on the exam, that kind of gives you some clarity. So fee simple, you can own it for as long as you want. You can easily transfer ownership to whomever, right? Or it can be inherited. But upon the death of the owner, ownership doesn't automatically transfer because it's fee simple. Okay, there has to be another reason why it will automatically transfer. Okay. Any other questions? Are you guys good with, I know I have that amortization table video. Has anyone here who's taken the exam before, have you seen those questions come up again with amortization? I don't know if they're still asking about that, but let me know in the comments if you've seen that question come up again. And hopefully everyone is kind of good with that, but a lot of the real estate books don't have it. And so be sure to review that video just in case you get a question about it on the exam, okay? All right, so if there are no other questions, I'll just wrap this up with, just techniques on taking the exam again. Again, don't overthink the questions. Stick to what they ask you on the question. Okay, if they don't mention XYZ, don't bring it into the question. All right. Sometimes when I'm teaching a class and we're going over a question, someone's like bringing in stuff, and I'm like, nope, nope, nope. They didn't talk about his brother's whatever, so let's not bring in his brother into this question. Let's just go off of the face value of the question. All right. For example, let's say that they're asking you about earnest money, all right, holding earnest money. And so the question is, does your office hold earnest money? That's a yes or no question, right? But you don't know. So what do? You go look in the manual versus now you're like, well, my cousin told me that the title company held it and this person held it. And no, the question they ask you all those things, right? Just focus on what they asked you. Does your office hold it? Yes or no? So just focus on your office holding it and stick there. Okay. Knowing that the exam is Illinois based and not just based on your county. And I say that because I'm in Cook County and a lot of things are different in Cook County versus other counties. So know what the state rule is, not necessarily what your county rule is. All right. For example, if you own real estate in Cook County, when you pay your taxes are different from when everybody else in the state pays their taxes. So which one do you need to know for the exam? Know the one for the state. You don't need to know the one for Cook County. All right. So stick with state rules, even with like rental ordinances and things like that. Maybe you own real estate and you know how it works in your county or in your city. That's fine. But we're looking at state law, all right, not your county. So focus on state. All right. With as I mentioned, rentals, knowing about like security deposits, when do you need to give them interest on the security deposits. So know what the state rule is, all right, on that one. So again, state-specific material versus what your municipality does. And that's how your knowledge or your life experience can come into the exam and, you're picking the wrong answers. All right, so stick to state. And then also, when you're going to take the exam, make sure the night before you get some good sleep. Don't schedule the exam in the morning if you're not a morning person. All right, don't try to be a hero. Just work according to your schedule. All right, if you're not a morning person, don't schedule it in the morning. If you're a morning person, schedule it in the morning. All right. I'm one of those, like 10 a.m. is when I'm more awake, so I usually do an afternoon time. And I don't mind going early, but at least I'm not doing it for 9 a.m. when I have to be like awake by 7 to make sure I get there on time and all of those things. And also, speaking of getting in there on time, please, I try to get there like minimum 15 minutes early. I usually plan for like 30 minutes to an hour early, just so that I'm not rushing, especially because I'm in Chicago. Y'all know how traffic can be, so that I'm not getting in there anxious, just like, oh my gosh, and then you have to calm down and then focus and take the exam. Just chill, get there on time, rest, go over your notes while you're there. Because someone like me, I would rather drive there and then go over my notes than go over my notes and then drive there. Right? Just drive there and then go over your notes. Okay. If you are, for example, because I'm in the city, so I just speaking from experience, if you're taking it in the city, make sure where you're going there is parking. Just know about the parking situation, so you don't get there and you're like, oh crap, I have to find parking, and then you're looking for parking, right? So those type of things, scout it ahead of time and pick your location accordingly. So just those little things can make a difference. And then also, when you go in there, just go with the mindset that you're going to pass this thing. And as you're taking the exam, when you answer a question, when you click next in your brain as well. So each time you go to the next question, it's almost like you're resetting your brain. Okay, it's like, okay, we're done with that question. We hit reset, then we go on to the next one. So what I mean by that is, when you answer question 1 and you move on to question 2, you're not thinking about question 1 when you're trying to answer question 2. You shut question 1 off and then you go to question 2. If you're not sure of question 1, mark question 1 and then you can go back to it. All right, but then just like hit reset, focus on question 2. When you're done with question 2, clear your brain, go to question 3. Question 4, clear your brain, go to question 4. Just like that. Someone like me, when I test, I don't remember the question before, because like literally when I tell you, I like answer it, go on to the next one, answer it, go on to the next one. Because there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of like different things. So you want to help yourself, so you're not thinking about so many things, and then you're not focusing on the question that you have in front of you. All right, so I feel like this thing is way more mental than physical knowledge, right? Because you may know the thing, but then you get there and you're so nervous you can't even read the questions properly and answer them properly. So that's why I talk about, even before you get there on time. Make sure you eat and you're not hungry when you get there, because then you're sitting there like, oh my gosh, I'm hungry, right? So do all of those things and just get your mind in the right place as you take the exam. And then final thing I would say is read the questions carefully. For me, I skim through questions. And even when I'm teaching, I have to slow down because my brain is going quicker than my eyes. So it's like I'm quickly like reading this stuff and I'm missing words. And if you know the exam well, you know that if you miss one word, it could change the entire answer. Because it could be, all of the following are this, except. If you miss except, you're going to pick the wrong thing. Okay? So what I like to say is, if you're taking the exam at home, this won't work for you. But if you're taking the exam at a facility, this will work. If you're taking the exam at a facility, I usually would move my lips as I'm reading the questions. What that does is it slows me down, and I can read the words and then answer the questions. Excuse me. So try that. if you're taking it from home, there's someone watching you and they're going to be very, very strict. So you can't move your lips. Otherwise, they will think that you're talking to someone in the room. So you can't do that at home. But practice it now when you're doing practice questions. So you just slow yourself down and read the questions. You guys have so much time. All right. I'm not saying spend like 3 minutes on a question. No. But if you read it properly the first time, then you could pick the right answer versus rushing through it and then now you have to go read it again. Right. So read it the first time well, pick the answer, and then go forward. If it's an all of the above question and two of the answers are correct, the third one you're not sure, but the fourth option is all of the above, guess what? The answer is all of the above because you can't have two correct answers. Okay, so let me say that again. If you have an all of the above type question, so which of the following is blah, 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 then you have option A, option B, option C, and then all of the above. If option A and B are correct, and you're not sure about option C, guess what? The answer is all of the above because the answer cannot be A and B. Right? It's all of the above. So even if you're not sure of C, it's all of the above. So things like that will kind of help you as you go along. All right? So once again, I apologize for starting off late, but hopefully this was very helpful to you all. And those of you who are watching after, if you have additional questions, please leave them in the comments and let me know, and I'll be glad to come back and answer your questions. If you haven't already subscribed to this channel, I don't know what you're waiting for. Please do subscribe. And for those of you who are here live and also watching later, please do like the video. If you have people who are studying for the exam with you, who are going through your real estate school, please share my channel with them, just so that it helps them as they prepare for the exam. All right. So I will sign off here. Thank you all so much for jumping in today. And have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. All right. Don't have too much fun. Make sure you don't forget your books though. But enjoy your weekend. All right. Take care, everybody.